If you're mixing on headphones and struggling to hear your low end correctly, this is how you use reference tracks to fix that. All right, a bit of a personal story here because this is really relevant. I think for a lot of us that we mix on headphones, our low end perception frankly sucks. We don't work in treated rooms. We're not working with any speakers that give us a more accurate representation. And essentially, we have to struggle to get the low end right a lot of the time in our mixes. And especially since we use open headback headphones, at least in my case, the low end is even more skewed in terms of a volume that is not applicable for me to be able to hear everything properly. So how do we get around this? Ultimately, it comes down to referencing and using reference tracks. And the way I suggest to use reference tracks is to pick a handful of your favorite songs or mixes, maybe 3, 4, or 5 that you know really, really well. You have to know them like the back of your hand, and buy a plugin like a Metric AB and then import them into your session and then use them as a way to check the low end against your tracks. Now, I have a plugin here called Metric AB that allows me to import the tracks to the particular plugin and allows me to break up each frequency region into bass, sub bass, mid range, upper mids, etc. And I can hear each individual portion of the mix within that plugin, and I can hear each individual portion of the frequency spectrum in relation to the mix. And the plugin is really, really great for allowing me to make sure that my bass is dialed in perfectly. With that said, okay, so how do we do this? So you load in your track. I have my track here, and then this button here, which is orange and blue, depending on which one you pick, is going to be your mix versus the B mix. So A is going to be your mix and B is going to be the mix that you imported into your track. And the way I like to use it is I segment off a section of the frequency spectrum, and then I just A/B back and forth between my mix and the professionally done mix so that I can hear the differences and see if I can need to make any adjustments for a competitive level. Most of the time, this is going to be done on bass guitar. All right, so I have chosen my mix to reference, which is going to be the Black Dahlia's Verminous. I really love that song and I really love that record because the record has the best bass I've heard in metal in a very long time. So let's go ahead and take a quick listen to what that sounds like. Now, let's compare that to my mix, and you're definitely going to hear a difference in the low end. So as you can clearly tell, it's almost practically non-existent. I mean, the bass is there, but there's really no low-end aggression like the Black Dahlia mix, which is really sad because I worked really hard on this mix. So how am I going to make sure that I get the right amount of low end? Well, the plugin allows me to segment each portion of the frequency spectrum. So I have low mids here, I have mids, high end, sub bass, and bass. And as you can see here, it changes between 250 hertz, 60 hertz, 800 to 250 hertz, etc., allowing me to hear those segmented regions. And then I can adjust those segmented regions to fit a more tailored listening experience if I need to. I typically just leave them at default settings though. All right, so I have selected just the bass region, which is going to cover everything between 250 hertz and 10 hertz. And then I'm going to A/B my mix and the Black Dahlia mix. And then in real time, I'm going to be making adjustments to the bass guitar so that I can go ahead and get the amount of low end I need. Okay, so I'm hearing two problems. I feel like my kick drum is lacking low end as well as my bass guitar. So I'm going to focus on bass guitar here. So I have my C4 compressor and I'm going to just bring up the gain on this C4 compressor until I feel the right amount is being added. I think right about there feels fine. Okay, let's jump over to the kick drum. I may not have to add it with EQ. I think I'm going to just bring it up in volume. Cool. So let's go ahead and hear what the mix sounds now that we've made those adjustments. Almost there. I feel like the bass is really, really close. I may just add some saturation on the master bus to see if I can get a little bit more out of that. But ultimately, that's really how I would use reference tracks. I would just pull up a mix that I know like the back of my hand and compare my mix against that mix and just make sure that everything's in line with a competitive mix. So the low end mostly is what I'm checking here, but sometimes I'll check mid-range and high end as well. So if you found this video helpful, give me a like, comment, and subscribe. It helped me more than you know. And if you'd like for me to work on your music, shoot me an email at divinemotherstudios@gmail.com or check out the links below. I'll see you guys in the next